It happened at 11:51 p.m. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A group text from my mother. Brenda. The message was short, clinical, like a line item on an invoice. Your father and I have agreed. You are no longer part of this family. I stared at it. Numb. Then, the digital punctuation mark to my own execution, a small heart icon appeared. My sister. Stefania. I didn't cry. I didn't text back why. I didn't throw my phone against the wall. I just sat there. In the dark. The screen of my phone glowing. The numbness I'd felt for years wasn't sadness this time. It wasn't despair. It was clarity. This wasn't a breakdown. This was an audit. I opened my laptop. The blue light felt cold on my face. I logged into the joint bank account. The one my father, Mark, had insisted I set up with him for family emergencies. For years. It had somehow just become their primary line of credit. Funded by me. My fingers moved on the keyboard. First, the recurring transfer on the first of every month, the one labeled Family Investment. $2,500. A payment my father said was just good financial planning for their retirement. But I knew it was just funding their lifestyle. I found the automated payment. Click. Cancelled. Second, the Scheduled Payments tab. Ah. Yes. The property tax payment for the lake house. It was scheduled to go out next week. I remembered the panicked call 2 years ago. Megan. The bank is foreclosing, we're going to lose the house, so I set it up. I saved it. They never mentioned it again. Click. Cancelled. Third, the phone plan. This one almost made me laugh. It was in my name. Of course. My credit. My responsibility. Brenda. Mark. And Stephanie, all on my plan. Stephanie, who had just gotten the newest iPhone last month. The same phone she just used to heart the message that executed me from the family. I logged into the carrier's portal. Request to terminate service at the end of the billing cycle. Click. Cancelled. I sat back. The screen glowed in the silence. I glanced at the clock in the corner of my screen. 12:03 a.m. It took 12 minutes. 12 minutes to dismantle the financial scaffolding I'd been holding up for a decade. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel relief. I just felt balanced. This wasn't revenge. This was simply balancing the books. You might be thinking I'm cold. That I'm heartless. How could I just cut them off? Click. 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 What you have to understand is that this wasn't a family. It was a corporation. And I'd just been fired from a job I never even applied for, the silent investor. I've been the responsible one my entire life. The one who never asked for anything. The one who got good grades. Built her own career. And never caused them any trouble. And they punished me for it. Because my stability didn't make them proud, it made me useful. Let's look at the ledger. For the past 5 years, I've paid $2,500 every single month into that family investment fund. My father, Mark, said it was to build our collective equity, a total of $150,000. Then there was Stephanie's college. She just had to go to that private art school. My parents co-signed her loans and then, surprise, they couldn't make the payments. So I did. $18,000 a year. For 3 years straight. That's $54,000. And the lake house. I'll never forget the call. 2 years ago. Megan. The bank is taking it. Your mother is a wreck. A one-time payment of $75,000. I drained my savings. I saved it. When I added it all up, the number stared back at me. $279,000. I had given them $279,000. And in return, they sent me a text message at 11:51 p.m. It took me years. And honestly, a lot of therapy. To finally understand the dynamic. In psychology, they call it the golden child and the scapegoat. It's a classic narcissistic family structure. My sister, Stephanie, was the golden child. She existed to be perfect, to be celebrated, to receive the praise, the gifts, the new iPhones. She was their reflection of success. I was the scapegoat. I existed to be the other one. The one who absorbed all the family's problems, all the blame, and all the financial responsibility. My role was to be the stable, quiet, responsible one, which really just meant I was the one they could exploit without any of the recognition. Stephanie got the applause. I got the bills. I wasn't being generous. I was performing a role I'd been assigned since birth. And at 11:51 p.m., they didn't just fire me. They made me redundant. They told me the role I had sacrificed my entire life for no longer existed. They just forgot to stop cashing the checks. I woke up the next morning feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Quiet. There was no knot in my stomach. No reflexive urge to check my phone, to see if I'd missed an obligation or failed some unspoken test. At 8:03 a.m., the silence broke. A text from Stephanie. I braced myself. Maybe this was it. The, "What's going on?" or the, "Are you okay?" I opened the message. It read, "Hey, my phone isn't working. Did you forget to pay the bill? Mom's freaking out." Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "Did Mom really kick you out of the family?" Just, "Did you forget to pay my bill?" I stared at the words. The entitlement was so pure, so breathtaking. It was almost impressive. She was so secure in her role as the golden child that the idea I might have intentionally cut her off was literally unthinkable. To her, it could only be a mistake. My mistake. I didn't reply. An hour later, my phone rang. My mother. "Brenda." I let it go to voicemail. The notification popped up a minute later. I put the phone on speaker and listened while I made my coffee. "Megan, I don't know what kind of childish game you think you're playing, but you have created an absolute mess. Stephanie's phone is disconnected. Your father is furious, and you are not answering your phone. You have upset everyone. You need to call us immediately and fix this. This is not how a mature adult behaves." I replayed the message. I listened for the keywords. Mess. Upset. Fix this. Childish. I noticed the words that weren't there. "I'm sorry." What happened? Did we hurt you? They weren't shocked by what they'd done. They were just shocked that I'd finally reacted. They were shocked that the ATM was suddenly offline. The final proof came that afternoon. My mom was always very careful about her public image. Our family wasn't just a family, it was an audience. And she was the director. She made a public post on her Facebook page. I saw it because my cousin tagged me in it, asking if I was okay. It was a picture of a sunset. One of those generic quotes about family, but it was her caption that did it. It's so sad when children forget who raised them. We've given our children everything, and we just pray they remember what family means before it's too late. Gratitude is a virtue that seems to be dying. Praying for peace in our family. There it was. The public manipulation. Painting herself as the wounded matriarch, and me as the ungrateful, wayward child. She wasn't just confirming her actions, she was recruiting an army to justify them. I read the post. I saw the comments rolling in. "We're praying for you. Brenda, you're such a good mother. Don't let them get you down." I took a screenshot. This wasn't a family dispute anymore. This was a business transaction that had gone bad. And she had just made a public statement. Fine. I'd make a professional one. I picked up my phone, but I didn't call her. I called my lawyer. That Facebook post was the real tipping point. It wasn't just an insult. It was a strategic move. A public, preemptive strike. Brenda wasn't just venting. She was building a narrative. She was poisoning the well. Painting me as the ungrateful, unstable child before I could ever tell my side of the story. She was building her case in the court of public opinion. Fine. I decided I'd build mine in a real one. I picked up my phone. I didn't call her. I didn't call my dad. I didn't reply to the comments from concerned relatives. I called my lawyer. Her name is Julia. We've known each other since college. But this wasn't a call for comfort. This was a call for services. Hey, Julia, I need to hire you. I explained the situation. Not the text message. Not the Facebook post. I kept the emotion out of it. I told her I had a series of outstanding personal loans to my parents that I needed to formally collect on. I gave her the breakdown. $150,000 in monthly investment payments. I said, my voice steady. $54,000 in tuition payments for my sister, Stefania, and a one-time $75,000 property bailout for their lake house. She was quiet for a moment. Megan, that's $279,000. Are you sure you want to do this? I've never been more sure. I said. They just formally terminated our relationship. I'm just closing the account. I want you to draft a formal demand letter. 30 days to initiate a repayment plan. Or we take legal action to secure the assets. Okay, she said. Her voice shifting from friend to lawyer. I'll have it drafted by noon and sent via certified mail to their address. You'll get a copy. I hung up. I felt clean. This wasn't anger. This was just math. My phone rang again. Almost instantly. I looked at the screen. My brother. Kevin. He was the only one I hadn't heard from. The only one who existed somewhere in the middle. He always tried to keep the peace, which usually just meant telling me to let things go. I braced myself for another lecture on family unity. I let it ring twice. Then answered. Hey. He didn't say, hello. His voice was heavy. Meg. I saw the group text. And I just saw Mom's Facebook post. He paused. And I could hear him take a sharp breath. Megan. I am so sorry. I froze. That was not what I expected. I've seen them do this to you. Our whole lives. He said. And his voice sounded thick. The little comments. The way they made you pay for everything. The way they treat Stephanie like she's a princess. And you're just... The help? The ATM. I stayed quiet. I'd heard him sympathize before. But this felt different. And I never said anything. He continued. And his voice actually cracked. I kept my mouth shut. I told myself I was keeping the peace. I told myself it wasn't my business. That it was just how they are. But that was just... It was cowardice. I was a coward. Meg. And I'm so sorry. I am so sorry I let you go through all of that alone for so long. I let out a breath I didn't even know I was holding. It was one thing to be right. It was another thing. After 32 years. To finally be heard. The validation was so overwhelming. I couldn't even speak. Thank you. Kevin. I finally whispered. That means everything. There was a shift in his voice. The guilt was gone. Replaced by a cold clarity that matched my own. No more. He said. His voice firm. I'm done. Keeping the peace. That peace was just. Quiet abuse. I'm done with them. So, I'm asking you, what do you need me to do? It was the first time in my entire life anyone in my family had ever asked me that. Not what's wrong. Not can you fix this. But, what do you need? I looked at the notes I'd made for my lawyer. Actually, I said, my voice steady again. There is something. I need to know about the lake house. The financials? I need everything you can find. I thought the demand letter for $279,000 was the end game. I thought it was just about accounting. About collecting what I was owed. I was wrong. It wasn't just about debt. It was about crime. Julia called me 2 days later. Her friend voice was gone. This was her lawyer voice. Precise. Sharp. And cold. Megan, she said. I'm digging into the financials for the lake house. Specifically that $75,000 payment you made 2 years ago. Okay, I said. Making coffee. I pulled the bank records from that period to establish the paper trail, but I also, on a hunch, subpoenaed the statements for your personal inheritance trust. The one your grandmother left you. I stopped pouring. Why? Megan, did you authorize a $40,000 withdrawal from that trust 3 years ago? The coffee mug felt heavy in my hand. What? No. Absolutely not. I've never touched that. That's for my son. Caleb. I would never. I'm sending you a scan right now, she said. My email chimed. I opened the file. It was a withdrawal authorization form from the trust. Confirming wire, transfer $40,000. And at the bottom, a signature. It was supposed to be my name. It wasn't. It wasn't even a good forgery. The M was too round. The N, too sharp. I'd seen that handwriting my entire life on birthday cards. On shopping lists. On passive-aggressive notes. Left on the counter. It was my mother's. Julia, I said. My voice flat. I did not sign this. I know, she said. The signature doesn't match your passport or your driver's license. It's forgery. Megan, it's a felony. My mind started to race. The pieces clicking into place with a horrifying, sickening speed. $40,000. 3 years ago. 3 years ago. That was the spring. Stephanie surprised everyone with that brand new convertible. The one she said she'd gotten from saving up. But the timeline. It wasn't just the car. Julia, I said, walking back to my laptop. What was the exact date on that withdrawal? She read it off. I opened another file. The bank records for the lake house. The first missed payment notice from their bank. The subsequent default warning. The frantic, tearful, we're being foreclosed on phone call from my mother. It was a sequence. The withdrawal from my trust. A few weeks later. The missed mortgage payment. A few months later. The panicked call to me. It hit me. It hit me so hard I had to sit down. They hadn't almost been foreclosed on. They had caused it. They had stolen $40,000 from my inheritance trust. Spent it probably on Stephanie's car, and then, when they couldn't cover the mortgage payments themselves, they called me, crying, hysterical, begging me to save the family home, that $75,000 bailout. I wasn't saving them from the bank. I was just refilling the account they had stolen from me. I wasn't an investor. I wasn't a scapegoat. I was the victim of a long con. And they had just been caught. The lawsuit. The real one. The criminal one. Was filed. Forgery. Grand theft. The demand letter for the $279,000 was just the opening shot. The forgery evidence was the kill shot. My father, Mark, and my mother, Brenda, received the summons. They were facing not just financial ruin from the civil suit, but criminal prosecution. The silence that followed was heavier this time. No angry texts. No Facebook posts. No furious voicemails. Just the deafening sound of their panic. Then, the knock came. It wasn't Kevin. It wasn't Stephanie. I looked through the peephole. It was my mother. Alone. She wasn't the proud, composed matriarch who had cut me from the family. The woman on my porch was a stranger. Her eyes were red and swollen. Her hair was a mess. And her hands were visibly shaking. She looked old. She looked broken. I opened the door. But I didn't move. I just stood in the entryway. Megan, she whispered. Her voice was raw. Like she'd been screaming. Please. I just waited. Please. You have to stop this. She begged. Taking a step forward. I didn't move back. Your father. They're talking about jail. They're saying, we're going to lose the house. We're going to lose everything. I said nothing. I just watched her. Please. She sobbed. And this time, she grabbed my arm. I know things were said. But this is your family. This is your sister. What about Stephanie? This will destroy her. You have to do something for Stephanie. My entire life, I had waited for her to see me. And even now, in her final, desperated moment, she was still looking right through me. She wasn't begging for me. She wasn't apologizing for what she did. She was begging me to save her golden child. Again, my voice was quiet. It was cold. It was the calmest I had ever felt in my life. I already did. I said. She blinked. Confused. The tears still on her face. What? I stepped back inside my apartment, picked up an envelope from the hall table, and stepped back out. I handed it to her. She fumbled with it, her hands shaking so badly she could barely open the seal. She pulled out the single folded paper. It was a copy of the legal notice. The notice of the lien I now held against their property. The notice of the impending foreclosure auction I was initiating to reclaim my $279,000. She stared at the legal jargon, her eyes trying to make sense of the words. This is for Stephanie, I said. And this is for the car. And for the tuition. And for the $40,000 you stole from my son's inheritance. Her head snapped up, her eyes wide with the shock of a liar finally caught. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Goodbye, Brenda. And I closed the door. I didn't slam it. It was a quiet, firm click. The sound of a deadbolt sliding into place. The sound of the end. The case resolved itself quietly after that. With the forgery evidence on the table, they had no leverage. They didn't fight. They couldn't. The criminal charges were suspended on the condition that they fully complied with the civil judgment. The lake house was sold at auction. The proceeds, plus the recovered amount from the trust, were wired directly to my account by the lawyers. The full $279,000, plus interest and legal fees. A few weeks later, Kevin and his wife came over for dinner. My son, Caleb, who hadn't asked about his grandparents once through all of this, was in the living room. He and his cousins were building some complicated Lego city, and the sound of their laughter was the only thing that filled the house. It wasn't the forced, tense quiet of my childhood. It was just easy. Later that night, after Caleb was asleep, I sat down and opened my laptop. I pulled up the old spreadsheet, the one I'd kept for a decade. A meticulous, painful record of every sacrifice, family investment, Stephanie's tuition, lake house bailout, and the last line I'd added stolen inheritance. The total at the bottom stared back at me. I looked at the bank transfer notification from the law firm. The numbers matched. It was balanced. The account was finally closed. I stared at that spreadsheet for a long time. All that anxiety, all that pressure, all that guilt, all reduced to a zero-sum game. I highlighted the file. I took a breath, and I hit delete. I closed the laptop. I went to bed. And that night, for the first time in my entire life, I slept straight through until morning. No guilt. No noisy. Just peace.